Our next guest is a self-taught family man who has held positions such as Coatesville School Board President, Coatesville Area Republican Chairman, John Birch Society Chapter Leader, and Campaign for Liberty Organizer. He spent 7 years of his life helping Dick and Nancy Saha keep their farm from eminent domain abuse, and won. Before I introduce our guest, here is an excerpt from an article written by Congressman Ron Paul called "The Case Against the Income Tax." Could America exist without an income tax? The idea seems radical, yet in truth, America did just fine without a federal income tax for the first 126 years of its history. Prior to 1913, the government operated with revenues raised through tariffs, excise taxes, and property taxes without ever touching a worker's paycheck. The harmful effects of the income tax are obvious. First and foremost, it has enabled government to expand far beyond its proper constitutional limits, regulating virtually every aspect of our lives. It has given government a claim on our lives and our work, destroying our privacy in the process. It takes billions of dollars out of the legitimate private economy, with most Americans giving more than a third of everything they make to the federal government. This economic drain destroys jobs and penalizes productive behavior. The ridiculous complexity of the tax laws makes compliance a nightmare for both individuals and businesses. Is it impossible to end the federal income tax? I don't believe so. In fact, I believe a serious groundswell movement of disaffected taxpayers is growing in this country. Millions of Americans are fed up with the current tax system, and they will bring pressure on Congress. It is an honor for me to introduce to you Mr. Patrick Sellers.
Hi everyone. It's great to share time with so many stalwarts. You folks are real freedom lovers to come out here in this rain and join this protest. I'm overwhelmed seeing so many people standing here in the rain. It's just great. And I feel it's an honor to share the podium with my friends Sam Rohr and Bill Ryle. And what a great cause we're all gathered here for. You know, when Sam Adams and friends orchestrated the original Tea Party, the taxes they were protesting against were but a pittance compared to what is being taken from us today. Yet a bloody revolution was fought, not only to prevent taxation without representation, but to live free and to decide for ourselves how much government we want. After the revolution was won, we drafted a constitution which enumerated the powers of the central government, and it had no provisions for an income tax. The men who fought the first revolution had lived under British rule without an income tax, and were not about to allow their newly created central government to be more oppressive than the last. The founders believed that funding for the government had to be a step or two removed from the people. This they accomplished by excise taxes and tariffs. Of course, the government they created was limited and never intended to provide for us from cradle to grave like the one we have now. Hence, the cost of this new government was kept low. The first attempt at a progressive income tax was during the Civil War, and this was repealed in 1878. When Congress again passed an income tax in 1894, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. Those who would take from the hands of labor the bread it has earned were undaunted, however, and in 1913 this current abomination was foisted upon us. The rate was only 1%, until one's income was over $20,000 a year. That would be comparable to about $500,000 in today's dollars, thanks to the Federal Reserve's inflationary monetary policy. So in the beginning, most people paid very little taxes and never expected to pay any more. Little did they know. It was getting the camel's nose in the tent, you might say. And there was no withholding until World War II. And then it was sold as a temporary measure. And by now, several generations have been accustomed to judging their income by how much they clear. This is all by design as well. The powers that be know full well that if everybody brought home all they earned and had to pay the IRS on a regular basis, more people would be motivated to do something about it. Our total tax burden has grown by leaps and bounds. Today, the average American has 28% of his earnings taken away to pay for his or her share of our government. The Tax Foundation estimates Pennsylvanians had to work 104 days this year to pay our total yearly tax burden. Tax Freedom Day was yesterday. It was the last day we had to work strictly to pay for our cost of government. So you see, we do have cause to celebrate today. We get to keep all that we earn. Isn't that nice? Some say the income tax amendment was never properly ratified in 1913, nor properly codified into law since then. There are probably some here today waging that fight, and I wish you the best of luck if you are, but I'm not ready to join you. I'm here today to talk to you about a good old-fashioned frontal assault. Let's abolish it completely with a vote of Congress, regardless of how it was imposed on us. And replace it with nothing. I've been a member of the John Birch Society for 20 years now, and I've been a chapter leader since the early 90s. I'm not on our paid field staff, so I speak to you today not on behalf of the society, but as one who firmly believes their mission statement of less government, more individual responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. To be the best philosophy to live by. Birchers believe that in order to restore the old republic, education is the key. I think most, if not all of you here today, agree with what I just said about abolishing the income tax, and believe it is entirely possible. I know I do. But walk down the streets of Lancaster and ask the ordinary citizen if it's possible, and you'll be lucky to find a handful to say yes. And the unfortunate reality of our situation is that we are not going to eliminate it until a majority of our countrymen understand how easily it can be done. With all that has been going on lately with the stock market crash and bailout after bailout, I believe the time couldn't be better to educate the masses about money and taxes. And if we focus on how an individual might take home all that he or she has earned, we might have their attention long enough to get it explained. If you find a real attentive individual, you might then try explaining how the Federal Reserve System works and why it too should be abolished. Since 1913, it has been the Fed's opening and closing the money spigots that has created every stock market bubble and almost every real estate bubble. Even small children know that when you blow up bubbles, they always burst eventually. The bailouts in the so-called stimulus package are excellent examples of why we should end the Fed. Quite simply, we never had this money to spend. Some of this money is borrowed from China, but most is just created out of thin air by the Fed. And the more fiat money the Fed pumps into circulation, the less every Federal Reserve note in your pocket is worth. The only thing preventing prices from dramatically increasing as a result of this inflation of the money supply is the fact that the banks have been holding on to most of their bailout money. Here's what it would take to do without the income tax.